shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatade Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We welcome everyone for today morning reading. The sound for a second. So, Hare Krishna. We welcome everyone for today morning reading once again. We are reading the most confidential knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. That is chapter 9. And now we're going to start our discussion from the 11th verse of this chapter. So far what we have discussed is about Lord Shri Krishna speaking about, in 7th chapter he says, Matha Paratam Nanit Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. I am the cause of all causes. So like that, Lord Shri Krishna has spoken here, explained how he is the cause of all causes in the verse number from 9.4 to let's say 9.10. So he has explained here his inconceivable opulences, which means which are difficult to understand, in the form of how he is present in every particle, every atom of this creation, yet he is aloof from it, like that. About the creation, about everything he has spoken here. Now, despite Krishna being present in every nook and corner, Lord being present, we discuss about all this thing that, yesterday we were making a point how the creation is in a particular order, in fact, perfect order. Every morning sun rises, every evening sun sets. It is not the sun is doing on his own. And I give an example. If sun was rising and setting on his own, then it doesn't seem possible, logical. The reason is, how many of us will go to office on our own if there is no boss dictating us to come to office every day? Yes or no? We work under the higher powers. There has to be somebody who's governing us. Just like none of us will go to office 7 days a week unless there is somebody who's demanding us to come at 9 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock your shift ends. And if you are late, you're punished. Unless those system is created, we will not function. So how come the sun, how come the air, how come the crops, how come the rain? You look at everything in the nature, how is it happening? Because we cannot understand, or we don't want to give credit, or not we, I mean to say the science, the today's generation don't want to give credit to God, the Supreme Personality Godhead. They say it's happening by chance. Very easy, right? Just say by it's happening by chance, then you don't apply any logic only. And simultaneously they say that nothing happens by chance. When you look at the mobile, when you look at the car, do you say it happened by chance? Immediately you say, who created it? The clothes that you wear, the house it built, you ask him, did it happen by chance? The people, this group of scientists who coined this chance theory had got the Nobel Prize for this chance theory. In other words, Nobel Prize was given for fiction writing. And they call it as the biggest scientific award. It just doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous, actually. So such ridiculous people are being explained in the 11th verse of this 9th chapter. Who are these fools who cannot understand? Avajananti mamudha manusham tanamashritam parambhavam ajananto mamabhuta maheshwaram. Avajananti, they deny me. Avajananti, they deride me. Who? Mudha, the foolish people. Manusham tanum ashritaha. They have taken a form of Manusham tanum ashritam. When I descend to a human-like form, They deride me. They find fault with me. They criticize me. Parambhava janantu. They don't know my superior parambhavam, situation or position. Mama bhuta mahishwaram. And what is a superior position? I am mahishwaram. Mama bhuta mahishwaram. Bhuta means this material creation. I am the Lord of the Lord of all these creation. And these fools don't realize it. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. Who are these fools? The atheists who deny God exists. Envious people like Shishupal, who can see Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra, who can see, yet they do not accept Krishna to be Lord. The Mayavadis, the impersonalists, who say, no, no, no. When the Brahman descends, it takes a form of a matter which is temporary, which means Krishna is temporary, Rama is temporary, all of them are temporary. Only Brahman is eternal, like that. Purport. From the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a COMMENT. The personality of Godhead, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation, cannot be human being. Yet there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishna. He is the Supreme Lord. There are many Ishwaras, controllers, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some official or director, and above him there is a secretary, above him there is a minister, and above him a president. Each of them is a controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers, undoubtedly, both in the material and spiritual world, but Krishna is the supreme controller. Ishvara Parama Krishna, and his body is Satchitananda, non-material. Material bodies cannot perform the wonderful acts described in previous verses. His body is Satchit Anand. Although he is not a common man, the foolish deride him and consider him to be a common man. His body is called here as Manushim because he's acting just like a man, a friend of Arjuna's, a politician. In so many ways, he's acting just like an ordinary man. But actually, his body is Sat Chit Anand Vigraha. Eternal bliss, knowledge absolute. This is confirmed in the Vedic language also. Satchidananda Rupaya Krishnaya. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, who is eternal bliss form of knowledge. The other description in the Vedic language also. Tamekam Govindam, your Govinda. The pleasure of the sense is the cow, Satchidananda Ananda Vigraha. Despite transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna's body, its full bliss and knowledge, there are many so-called scholars and commentators of Bhagavad Gita who find fault with Krishna as ordinary man. The scholars may be born an extraordinary man due to his previous good work, but this conception of Sri Krishna is due to poor fund of knowledge. Therefore, he is called as Muda. For only foolish persons consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being. The foolish consider Krishna an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential different energies. This is a very difficult subject matter actually. Therefore, Prabhupada says the confidential activities of the Lord and his different energies. Can you give me one example of his confidential activity? Because of its confidential nature, it has bewildered the mankind for all the time. Any such example of confidential activity of the Lord which has bewildered the mankind? Ras Leela, very nice. What else? What else? Ras Leela, correct. His pastimes with Gopa friends, Brahmaji was bewildered. Okay. What else? Quick, folks. Think quickly. His disappearance. He is being shot at his feet. So like that, you can think of many incidents. These are confidential activities. His appearance also, appearing in the prison house, So, the foolish consider Krishna an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord and his different energies. They do not know that Krishna's body is a symbol of complete knowledge and bliss, that he is a proprietor of everything that be and that he can award liberation to anyone. Because they do not know Krishna has so many transcendental qualifications, they deride him. Govinda is a big purport. Nor do they know that the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this material world is a manifestation of his internal energy. Through his internal energy, he has manifested, which is described in text number 10 also, you can say, fine. He is the master of the material energy. Text number 10 of this chapter says, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti. He is the master of material energy, as has been explained in previous verses, several places. He claims that material energy, all the very powerful, is under his control. Devi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya. Man surrenders unto him can get out of the control of material energy. If a soul surrendered to Krishna can get out of the influence of material energy, then how can the Supreme Lord, who conducts creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the absolute of the whole cosmic nature, have a material body like us? Simplest point. See, this is because of lack of proper study of Bhagavad Gita, but we keep getting confused and bewildered about the whole subject matter. Now, if Krishna says, this is Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti, material energy is under my control. Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sa Characharam. Then Devi Yeshugunamai Mama Maya Duratya Mameve Prabhante. One who takes shelter of me, this material energy which is very difficult to transgress or transcend, becomes very possible by taking shelter of me. Sarva sinful reaction, etc. etc. If Krishna standing on the battlefield speaking to Arjuna as Krishna when he descended in this world, if he can set anyone and everyone free from their sinful reactions, set them free from the clutches of modes of material nature, how does it make sense that he's under the modes of material nature? That is the point Prabhupada is making. It just doesn't make sense. Otherwise, you say Bhagavad Gita is wrong. Otherwise, you don't accept Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise Krishna is saying wrong. Or if accept Bhagavad Gita, then it's but logical that he is beyond. The commentators, the foolish thinkers and writers who speak that Krishna is a common man, they are wrong. So point is, we're left with two options. Either we believe Krishna or we believe foolish people like this. For example, one person, during Prabhupada days, one man came to Prabhupada and he began to argue. Swamiji, my guru have said like this, my guru said like this, we all are God, you are God, I am God, we all merge into God, etc. etc. He went on speaking like this. Then Prabhupada said, Dekho bhai, we are speaking what Krishna says. Krishna says he is God and we are his part and parcel, 4.6 and then 15.7. Mame vanshu jiva loka jivbhuta sanatana. And then Prabhupada said, whom do you want me to believe? You want me to believe Krishna or you want me to believe your rascal guru? Everyone was silent. Of course, you want to believe Krishna. So that's something we have to make a choice who we hear from. So this conception of Krishna that he is like human is complete foolishness. Foolish persons, however, cannot conceive the personality of God Krishna appearing just like an ordinary man. Can be the control of all the atoms of the gigantic manifestation in universal form. The biggest and mindless are beyond their conception, so they cannot imagine that a form like that of human being can simultaneously control the infinite and the minute. Actually, although he is controlling the infinite and the finite, he is apart from all this manifestation. It is clearly stated concerning his Yogam Aishwaram, his inconceivable transcendental energy, that he can control the infinite and finite simultaneously, and that he can remain aloof from them, like that. Next paragraph. There are many controversies between the impersonals and the personals about the Lord's appearance as a human being. But if we consult Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, the authoritative text for understanding the science of Krishna, then we can understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not an ordinary man, although he appeared on this earth as an ordinary human. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, when the sages headed by Shaunaka inquired about the activities of Krishna, they said, Kartava kela karamani saharamena keshava ati mrityani bhagavan gudaha kapada manusha. Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masterfully performed many superhuman acts. The Lord's appearance as a man bewilders the foolish. So no human being could perform the wonderful acts that Krishna performed while he was present on this earth. When Krishna appeared before his father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, he appeared with 4 hands. But after the prayers of his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child. As stated in Bhagavatam 10.3.46, Babu Prakrita Shishu. He became just like an ordinary child, an ordinary human being. Now here again it is indicated the Lord's appearance as an ordinary human being is one of the features of his transcendental body. In the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also it is stated that Arjuna prayed to see Krishna's form of 4 hands. After revealing this form, Krishna, when petitioned Arjuna, again assumed his original human-like form, Manusham Rupam. These different features of Supreme Lord are certainly not those of an ordinary human being. Yes, if Krishna was an ordinary human being, how did he show his Virat Roop? Like that, so many claims are there. Some of those who deride Krishna, who are infected with the Mayavad philosophy, quote the following verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishna is just an ordinary human being. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatma vasthitah sada. Supreme is present in every living entity. We should better note of this particular verse from Vaishnavacharya like Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, instead of following the interpretation of unauthorized persons who deride Krishna. Jiva Goswami, commenting this verse, says Krishna in his plenary expression in Paramatma is situated in the moving and non-moving entities as super soul. So any neophyte devotee simply gives attention to the Archamurti, the form of the Supreme Lord in the temple, and does not respect the living entities, uselessly worshipping the form of the Lord in the temple. Which means the living entity resides in the heart of every living entity. So we just cannot serve the deities and disrespect other living entities. Got the point? That is the point. There are three kinds of devotees of the Lord. Neophyte is in the lowest stage. The neophyte devotee gives attention to the deity in the temple, then to other devotees. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur wants this sort of mentality should be corrected. Devotees should see that because Krishna is present in everyone's heart as Paramatma, everybody is embodiment of the temple of the Supreme Lord. So as one offers respect to the temple of the Lord, he should similarly properly respect each and every body in which the Paramatma dwells. Everyone should therefore be given proper respect and should not be neglected. There are also many impersonalists who deride temple worship. They say that since God is everywhere, why should one restrict himself to temple worship? But if God is everywhere, is he not in the temple or in the deity? Although the personalists and the impersonalists will fight with one another perpetually, a perfect devotee in Krishna consciousness knows that although Krishna is a supreme personality, is all pervading as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Although his personal abode is Goloka Vrindavan, he is always staying there. By his different manifestations of energy and by his plenary expansions, he is present everywhere in all parts of the material and spiritual creation. Text number 12. Moghasha mogha karmanu mogha jnana vichetsaha rakshasham asuram chaiva prakritim mohinim shitaha. Moghasha. Mogha asha. Asha means hopes. Baffled in their hopes. Mogha karmano. Mogha means baffled, failed. Karmano, failure in their fruitive activities. Mogha jnana, failure in their knowledge. Vichetasaha, bewildered. Rakshasham, asurim chaiva. Rakshasham is demonic, asurim is atheistic. Chaiva, certainly. Prakritim mohinam ashitaha. They have taken, or in the words, such kind of people are bewildered by my material nature. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic, views. Demoniac views means the God does not exist. Demonic, what does demon wants to do? What is the difference between asura and the what is rakshasham? Rakshasham and asura. Now Rakshas are one who want to destroy. Prabhupada answers that as demon. Demons are one who wants to kill Krishna. Atheists are one who wants to deny the existence of Krishna. More or less both are doing the same thing. So those who are attracted by the demoniac and atheistic views. Demonic views could be of, let's say, the scientific class of society. Not all, some, or some so-called envious people who want to destroy, just like Hiranyakashipu, Ravana. They want to fight with Vishnu and destroy Vishnu. These are demoniac. What is asuric views? Atheistic views. They don't believe Krishna exists. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and jnana, culture of knowledge, are all defeated. There are many devotees who assume themselves to be in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, but at heart do not accept the Supreme Personality Godhead Krishna as the absolute truth. For them, the fruit of devotional service going back to Godhead will never be tasted. Similarly, those who are engaged in fruitive pious activities and ultimately hoping to be liberated from this material entanglement will never be successful either, because they deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. In other words, persons who mock Krishna are to be understood to be demoniac or atheistic. As described in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, such demonic miscreants never surrender to Krishna. Therefore, their mental speculations to arrive at the absolute truth bring them to the false conclusion that the ordinary living entity and Krishna are one and the same. With such a false conviction, they think that the body of any human being is now simply covered by material nature, and that as soon as one is liberated from this material body, there is no difference between him and God. This attempt to become one with Krishna will be baffled because of delusion. Such atheistic and demonic cultivation of spiritual knowledge is also always futile. That is the indication of this verse. It is a great offense, therefore, to consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being. The Brihad Vishnu Smriti clearly states, Yo veti bhautikam deham krishnasya paramatmanah sa sarvasmad bahiskaryaha shautasmata vidanatah mukham tasyavalokyapi sachelam snanamacharat. One who considers the body of Krishna to be material should be driven out from all rituals and activities of the Shruti and Smriti. And if one by chance sees his face, one should at once take bath in the Ganges to rid himself of infection. People jeer at Krishna because they are envious of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Their destiny is certainly to take birth after birth in the species of atheistic and demonic life. Perpetually, their real knowledge will remain under the delusion, and gradually they will regress to the darkest region of creation. Now, but what about devotees? This is about demons who do not accept. But now, those who accept Krishna, or those who understand the truth, Mahatmanastu mam pata devam prakritamashritah bhajanti ananaya manaso gyatva bhutadim avvayam. So the demons, demonic, atheistic people, what I said, Rakshashim and Asarim, whose shelter they take? Prakritim Mohinim Ashrita. They take shelter of the Maya energy of the Lord, material energy. Whereas the devotees, they're always protected under the internal energy of the Lord. Mahatmanastu mam partha. But great souls, Mahatmas, Devim Prakritim Ashrita. Ashrita means shelter. They have taken shelter of Devim Prakritim, my internal energy. Bhajanti Ananaya Manaso. Bhajanti means render service. Ananaya Manaso. Manaso means mind. Ananaya, without deviation. Gyatva means knowing. Bhutadim. Bhuta means material creation. Adi, I am the origin. Avayam, imperishable, inexhaustible. O son of Prabhupada, those who are not deluded, the great souls under the protection of the divine nature, they fully engaged in devotion because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In this verse, the description of the Mahatma is clearly given. The first sign of the Mahatma is that he is already situated in the divine nature. He is not under the control of material nature. And how is this affected? That is explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality Godhead, Shri Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. That is a qualification. One can become free from the control of material nature as soon as he surrenders his soul to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the preliminary formula. Being marginal potency, as soon as the living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of the spiritual nature is called Daivi Prakriti, divine nature. So when one is promoted in that way, by surrendering to the Supreme Personality Godhead, one attains to the stage of great soul, Mahatma. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna because he knows perfectly well Krishna is the original Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. There's no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma gets to develop through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They're simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. Text number 14. What are the activities of these Mahatmas? Satatam kitayanto mam yatantascha dradvrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Satatam kirtayanto mam. Kirtan kiska? Mera. Kab? Satatam. Yatantas cha dradvata. Yatantas, full endeavor. Yatantas cha dradvataha, with determination. Namasyantas, offering obeisances. Chamam bhaktya. Like this, they render devotion service unto me. Nitya yukta upasata. Upasata means worship. Nitya yukta, always eternally engaged in rendering devotion service in the mood of humility, and they are always endeavoring to perfect their Krishna consciousness. They are always endeavoring to perform or improve their Krishna consciousness. Purport. The Mahatmas cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. Prabhupada is referring to Mahatma Gandhi. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Lord. Krishna, the Supreme Personality God, is no other business. He's always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising his own name, his eternal form, his transcendent quality, his uncommon pastime. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord Brahmajyoti is not described as Mahatma in the Bhagavad Gita. He is described in a different way in the next verse. The Mahatma is always engaged in different activities of devotional service, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or a human being. That is devotion, Shravanam Kirtana Vishnu, and Smaran, remembering him. Such a Mahatma has a firm determination to achieve at the ultimate end the association of the Supreme Lord. In any of the five transcendental rasas, to achieve their success, he engages all activities, mental, bodily, vocal, everything, in the service of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. That is called full Krishna consciousness. In devotional service, there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the moon, Ekadashi, on the appearance day of the Lord. All these rules and regulations offered by the great acharyas for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality Godhead in the transcendental world. The Mahatmas, great souls, strictly observe all these rules and regulations, therefore they are sure to achieve the desired result. As described in the second verse of the chapter, not only is this devotional service easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. One does not need to undergo any severe penance and austerity. He can live his life in devotional service, guided by an expert spiritual master in any position, either as a household or as a sannyasi or a brahmachari, in any position anywhere in the world. He can perform this devotional service with the Supreme Person Godhead and thus become actually Mahatma, a great soul. Like that. Satatam Kirtanayatma Nam. Now, text number 15. Jnana yagnena chapyanni yajanto mamupasati ekatvena prataktvena bahuda vishvato mukham. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as one without a second, as diverse and many, and in the universal form. So those who engage in the sacrifice of cultivation knowledge, they worship the Lord without second. Purport. This verse is a summation of the previous verses. The Lord tells Arjuna that those who are pure in Krishna conscious do not know anything other than Krishna are called Mahatmas. Yet there are others who are not exactly in the position of Mahatma, but who worship Krishna also in different ways. Some of them have already been described as distressed, Atu, Athati, Jigyasu, and Jnani. But there are others also who are still lower, and these are divided into three. First, he worships himself as one. Second, who conquers some form of the Supreme Lord and worships. And third, he accepts the universal form of the Supreme Person Godhead and worships that. Out of the three, the lowest, those who worship themselves the Supreme Lord, thinking themselves to be monist, are most predominant. Such people think themselves to be the Supreme Lord, and in this mentality, they worship themselves. This is also a type of God worship, for they can understand they are not the material body, but actually spiritual soul. At least such a sense is prominent. Generally, the impersonalists worship the Supreme Lord in this way. The second class includes the worshippers of the demigod, those who, by imagination, consider any form to be the form of Supreme Lord. And the third class includes, you see that during Ganesh Chaturthi. गणेश जी के हाथ में कभी त्रिशूल होता है, कभी बांसुरी होती है, कभी लड्डू होता है, कभी कुछ होता है. नो डाउट आज के कलयुग के गणेश जी के हाथ में रिमोट भी होगा, अगले अवतार में स्मार्टफोन भी होगा. इस प्रकार से ये लोग बनाते रहते हैं. This is what it means by, although they have faith in Ganesh, but they keep on speculating. And the third class includes those who cannot conceive any of things beyond the manifestation of the material universe. They consider universe to be the supreme organism or entity and worship that. The supreme is also a form of the Lord. Those who worship nature, they're also the inferior practitioners. Text number 16, the last verse for today. Aham krito aham yajna swadhaham aham anushadam mantroham aham vivacham aham agner aham mutam. Anyone who would like to read this translation purport? Those are online. Okay. Yes. Okay. Mother Anjana, your hand is up, I see. Go ahead. Can you speak, Anjana?
Yes, yes. It's 9.15. Okay. This verse is the summary of the previous verses. The Lord tells Arjuna that those who are purely in Krishna consciousness and do not know anything other than
Text
Krishna
number
are found.
16, translation.
Translate. The very sacrifice known as Jyotishamaya
Translation.
of,
You're reading
but
purport.
it, but it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice and offering to the ancestors the healing herb, the transcendental trance. I am the butter and the fire and the offering.
Yes.
Uh, the Vedic
Purport.
sacrifice The Vedic sacrifice known as Jyotishtama is also Krishna, and he is also the Mahayajna mentioned in the Smriti. The oblations offered to the Pitraloka or the sacrifice performed to please the Pitraloka considered as a kind of drug in the form of clarified butter is also Krishna. The mantras chanted in this connection are also Krishna, and many other commodities made with milk products for offering in the sacrifice are also Krishna. The fire is also Krishna because fire is one of the five material elements and is therefore claimed as a separated energy of Krishna. In other words, the Vedic sacrifices recommended in Karma Kanda division of the Vedas are in total also Krishna. Or in other words, those who are engaged in rendering devotional service unto Krishna are to be understood to have performed all the sacrifices recommended in the Vedas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, cultivation of knowledge by sacrifice. So, Krishna is saying, I am the ritual, I am the sacrifice, I am the offering to the ancestors, I am the healing herb, I am the transcendental chant, I am the butter, fire, and the offering, like that. So, in verse number 16 to verse number 19, uh, now the discussion would be about the features of universal form. So, like that, in 16th verse, it is being spoken about sacrifice. Now we'll see 17, 18, 19. So, when we meet tomorrow, we'll continue the discussion then. Today, we'll pause here up to verse number 16. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki